Because we're gonna do another one just to show you guys. Alright guys, so we have some exciting news. We're gonna start working on the first gen. So Build and Battle Rx7, we've been it's been parked. It's here in Virginia. It's been parked for a couple months, and we've been doing some upgrades to it. So finally, everything showed up that we needed to get it running to this next level that we want. Since we're taking it to Florida 2K along with the 20 BFD. So it'll be the 20 BFD and the Build and Battle Rx7. So what we were waiting on was an ECU that was compatible with the 6 injectors. You know, as you guys know, we ran a Haltech 550 because it was, you know, it was a budget build. That was the cheapest Haltech we can buy, and it did a lot. We won the show. The car was fast. Everything was perfect with the car. But for what we're gonna do now that budget is not a factor, you know, we moved it up to the next level. We have some boxes from Haltech themselves, and we're gonna be unboxing some of their products that they sent us for the Build and Battle Rx7. So we have pretty much 4 days to install this, have it on the dyno, and take it to the track this weekend for testing, because next week, 9 to 10 days from now, is Florida 2K. So we have 1 weekend to test this car. So we have to have this car running by Saturday with all these parts. So we're gonna start with the ECU, and then we'll move on to the next modifications that we're gonna be doing to the car. All right. So this one's unrelated. This is a customer's. All right, so it's this box. So, first off, they sent us a dash. So the one that they're sending us for the car, it wasn't in stock right now, but they'll be sending it. But this will get us going for the for Florida 2K. So right here, we have the CAN port. So this is to connect multiple CAN devices, like, you know, the wideband, the dash, the EGT sensor. So all that stuff's like right here. So it needs to be hooked up to CAN. So first off, coils. So these are their Haltech Igm 1A coils. So as you guys know, like these, we ran these already. They're super awesome coils. They, you know, the pretty much the next level after this is like CDI stuff. And that's just like overkill for what we're doing. We have pressure sensors. So we have one that we're gonna use for a map. And then we should have 3 more. So we have another pressure sensor is gonna be oil pressure, and another pressure sensor that is going to be fuel pressure. We weren't really monitoring none of that stuff. We weren't monitoring fuel pressure. We weren't monitoring oil pressure, nothing. You know, we were having a lot of problems with the fuel filters clogging, but, you know, we will have to put a GoPro on the analog gauge to see if we were like running out of fuel pressure, which we were. So this, we can see everything on the laptop. So, you know, we really didn't have a budget for this for the Build and Battle car. As you guys know, like a lot of this stuff costs money, and you can't really find this stuff used like, you know, how we were doing the show. We have pressure sensors for everything, so now we'll be able to monitor all that stuff and know the limit of the fuel system. Other thing we got done is we got Egt Probes. So we got 2 of these. I'll put this over here. So we got the Egt Pros for pretty much tuning the max out of the engine. So you don't just throw timing at an engine. It doesn't work like that. You know, a lot of times when you get to high horsepower, you can add and take away timing depending on what your exhaust gas temperature is. So this is gonna help us a lot with tuning. Once I set it to where it needs to go and we see like low EGTs, I can add more timing, which it increases the power. We'll have more power. So with this, I'll know what the max. I can add timing, boosts, like fuel mixture, all that stuff, and know, you know, things like diagnostic stuff, like if we have a bad injector, you know, we have one rotor running hotter than the other. Like this stuff like helps a lot with tuning. Let's see what else we got in here. The other Egt probe. And right here, we actually have the 4-bar. So I guess one of these we're using for exhaust gas temperature. So it's exhaust gas temperature, fuel pressure, and oil pressure. So this is actually going to be the map sensor for the car. So we went ahead and got a 4-bar because we're going to send a lot of boost through it. So the ECU comes with a map sensor, and what the problem we ran into is that the ECU has a built-in map sensor, but it maxes out around 32 psi. So we were kind of like capped on how much boost we can run on the car. Anything higher than that will throw a error code, and pretty much the computer doesn't know what's going on. It just thinks that it's doing 32 pounds all the time, but it's actually not. It's doing more, and you know, that's not how you tune a car. You can break stuff like that. So we have the 4-bar map, which we're gonna have that mounted really nicely. And right here, we have the amplifier box for those Egt probes. So let me get this open real quick. These Egt probes, they obviously go connected to the ECU, but they don't go connected directly to the ECU. They go connected to this box, and from this box, it communicates through CAN to this hub right here, and pretty much the computer will see everything. So it will know that it has EGTs, it will know it has the dash, all that stuff. So all this stuff has to be mounted super nicely and neatly. So we're gonna have a couple of days of wiring. So the next thing we have right here is the Wideband Controller Kit. So we have the wideband sensor right there, and same as the EGT stuff, it has its own controller right here. So we don't have a gauge. Our gauge is going to be this dash, so everything's going to communicate to this dash. So that's why we have this CAN adapter hooked up, so that we'll be able to see EGTs, oil pressure, fuel pressure, map, everything on that dash. Pretty much everything's being hooked up to the CAN. So the wideband we're going to be able to see on the dash also, and it's going to go from the sensor to this controller, and from this controller it has another CAN cable right here that goes directly to here, and it's going to communicate to the CAN hub, and then from the CAN hub it's going to go to the ECU and dash. So the ECU will know what our air fuel ratio is at, and we can set parameters of what we want and what we don't want. That way the ECU corrects and always has a safe tune on it. So let's say the car starts running lean, we can have this computer correct for that. And lastly, we have this mess of cables that we have to wire. So we're gonna do a little video on that on wiring. And the best part right here, the Haltech 2500. Compared to the 550, this is a huge upgrade. Has a lot more inputs and outputs, and you can control more injectors, which is what we wanted. 550 you only control 4 injectors, and you know, the intake that we had at the time had 6 injectors, and we weren't able to run it. We only ran 4 injectors because the computer only had 4 outputs. This computer is going to let us run all 6 injectors stage how they're supposed to, and we won't have a bad transition like we had last time when we were at the dyno. You know, as soon as the secondaries will come on, it's 4 secondaries coming on at the same time, and the engine will just choke. We'll have 3 stages with this. Really excited about this ECU, and I want to thank Haltech for, you know, helping us get to the next level, you know, and all this stuff is gonna help. All this stuff is gonna help us. Harness with relays and fuses built in, so you don't have to use the car's wiring anymore. It has literally everything right there. Everything is like labeled. The premium harness is the easiest harness to like make. Coolant temp, you literally run this to the coolant temp and that's it. Put the sensor. We got a lot of work ahead of us, so let's get to it, and I'll show you guys the intake that we're gonna put on it. As you know, we had a stock intake before and we're upgrading it now. And here we go. I believe last video we did the brakes, so that's done. And other than that, everything is the same. I'm not sure if we touched up on the differential, but the diff was actually out of alignment. The diff angle was like completely off, so we fixed all that stuff. So we were cutting 1/4s. I really believe it's got a 1/2s, 1/3s in it, so we'll see what it does this weekend. Right now, this is how it was. Stock intake, straight to the turbo. You know, same fuel system. You know, we have the gauge right here, which we're gonna get rid of and put that sensor. But the biggest modifications that we're gonna do to it is an intake. So our friends from Elite sent us their intake, and compared to the stock intake, these runners are way bigger. So we're gonna have a lot more airflow. Bigger plenum compared to the stock one. If you take a look at the stock one versus this one, it's a lot more flow. Thicker runners on this one compared to that one, so it'll be better suited for racing. So these were already modified to semi-peripheral. So as you guys know, the engine is semi-peripheral. 4 injector holes with the 2 in the block, that's 6, so we'll be able to run 6 injectors. That's why we got the Haltech 2500. And these runners, compared to the stock intake, all of them are the same diameter. Usually these are thinner on the stock intake. So a lot more airflow that we'll be having through here. We'll have to modify the piping a little bit. Came with the spacers, adapters, and a new fuel rail that we have to put on for the 4 injectors. One of the biggest problems that we have with this car is the fuel tank is corroding technically. So what's happening is that C16 that we're running on this gas tank, it's is super corrosive. So what it's doing is the C16 is creating rust inside the tank, because, you know, this tank's old. It wasn't really coated for race gas like that. And C16 is super corrosive. So it's creating a lot of rust, clogging up filters, and we're losing fuel pressure. That's last time we took it to the track, we just kept having, John kept having fuel pressure problems. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put a fuel cell. So I have that coming on its way, and we already removed the fuel tank, and we moved the battery. So the battery is going to be mounted right here where it used to be down here. So on this area right here, we're going to put the new fuel cell. So it's aluminum, it's sumped, and it'll be perfect for drag racing, and it won't corrode. And it doesn't fit. I'm going to take the fuel cell out of the repo, put this one on the repo, and just like swap them out. The one on the repo is way smaller, so that way we can still make this weekend. And those are the biggest issues with the build and battle car. You know, fuel pressure and underrated like ECU that we, you know, not that it was bad, it was just underrated for what we were doing. So now we're gonna see the actual potential of the car. I guess that's it, you know. We'll shoot some videos of the wiring, we'll shoot some videos of the fuel cell, we'll bring you guys along the ride, and just make sure, you know, to subscribe, hit that like button, and follow us in this journey.